Good morning and welcome to our IOL PowerPoint presentation for educational management. This course includes ACSE and those students that are doing DPPE, educational management. My name is George Kandetu and I'm very glad that I'm able to shed light on what to expect during the upcoming examinations. I must explain to you that this presentation includes all examination for this year. So when you go through these slides, take into consideration that it covers all examinations for this year. All right, there you see all my details and the time slot when to contact me. Please feel free to contact me if you have any query or you need some explanation about certain aspects. All right, first of all, I would like to look at the different concepts that are contained in your study guide and of which you must pay particular attention. The importance of classroom management. We know that as a teacher, classroom management is of paramount importance. You cannot do without managing your class. Teaching without managing your class is futile. You won't be able to reach your goal. You won't be able to teach effectively if you lack the ability of classroom management. So take it from me that classroom management is part and parcel of your training as a teacher, and you need to know the do's and don'ts of classroom management. It is actually the tool for a successful teaching and learning. So if you want to be a successful teacher and you want your learners to perform to the maximum, then you start with classroom management. So you cannot compromise classroom management as a very important tool for teaching and learning. So familiarize yourself with that concept. Get to know what are the rules when it comes to classroom management. And the next concept is management concepts like planning, organizing, leading, and control. Those are, in any management, you need to have those pillars. There must be planning, there must be organizing, leading, and controlling. And you should not only learn them in isolation, you should know how to apply them in particular contexts. So when I ask you questions during examinations, you have acquired the concepts of planning, organizing, leading, controlling, but you need to know how to apply them in context. Many a times I will ask you to apply those in context. The scopes and duties of a manager, it's self-explanatory. A manager has certain duties to perform. So what are those duties and what are the scope and duties of a manager? Characteristics required for teachers to facilitate effective classroom management. At the top, I spoke about the importance of classroom management. Now, as a teacher, there are certain characteristics that you must portray or that you must follow to show that you can be an effective classroom manager. And we can look at it from the academic perspective or also from the social, emotional learning perspective. So characteristics required for teachers to be able to facilitate effective classroom management. And in general, what does educational or school management mean? There is an elaborative description of what educational management is or school management is. Managing ethics in schools. Ethics in schools are to be managed. A school without ethics result in chaos. There must be ethics of respect, for example, ethics of discipline, and they cannot exist on their own. They need to be managed. They need to be tailored by school management. They need to be reinforced. They need to be emulated. So it's very important that ethics are to be managed. So as a principal, you have that critical role to play, namely to manage ethics in schools. So what are your ethical responsibilities as a principal? What are you portraying? Because you are the leader and the followers must follow your ethical conduct. And then we look at the characteristics of management. There are certain characteristics that is associated with management. They are listed for you in the study guide. You need to study what are they. Generic function of the 3 levels of management, that is now the top level management, middle level management, lower level management. Again, that relates to planning, organizing, leading, controlling. So at every level, top level, middle level, lower level management, all those generic functions come to play. Question will be, what is your role as a top level management? In terms of planning, for example, or in terms of organizing, or in terms of leading? What is your role in terms of those generic functions as a middle level manager or as a lower level manager? And then you are required to do comparison between autocratic management style, paternalistic management style, and democratic management styles. Obviously, you need to be able to define what is autocratic management style, what is paternalistic, and what is democratic management style, and what are the advantages and disadvantages of these management styles, and in which circumstances or situation will I apply autocratic, paternalistic, or democratic management style. So we don't say that a certain style should be done away with, but depending on the circumstances, on the context, there will be moments that you will need to be autocratic, nothing wrong with it, but you need to justify why autocratic management style is needed there, why democratic management style is there. In other words, what are the advantages and the disadvantages of those management styles? On the topic management theories and skills, there are different management theories that are described in your study guide. One of them is balance, instrumentality, and expectancy theory, or the VI theory. Please familiarize yourself with the VI theory. What does it entails? What does it mean? Be able to interpret it in your own words when we talk of balance, instrumentality, and expectancy theory. And then another theory also dealt with is the difference between servant leadership and ineffective leadership. What is the difference between the two? Servant leadership and ineffective leadership. We are coming from different diversity, both the staff members as well as the learners in a particular school, especially in Namibia. Now it is very important that staff and learners are managed because we are coming from the different background. So Managing staff diversity or learner diversity is of paramount importance. There are also certain perception by society about those learners that are at risk. For example, the minority learners that are coming from the San community, learners that are coming from an impoverished background. What are the attitudes of society about them? Some of them think that, no, they are coming from a poor background, so the values of hard work was never installed in them, or they are coming from for marginalized community, so they will never cope with the mainstream school environment. There are certain attitudes that are portrayed by different by the society when they look at what we term as at-risk learners. Familiarize with yourself with these attitudes, formulate your own opinion about them, and you should be able to articulate what you think about those attitudes. The universal features of an organization. For us to classify a school as an organization or a certain entity as an organization, there are certain encompassing features that we look at, which we call universal, which apply to all that we can term organization. Formal organization as compared to informal organization, we can look at the characteristics. A formal organization in which, how is it formed? Formal organization. How is it different from informal organization? You look at many aspects. Some of them are formed by official nominations, informal organization by unofficial grouping of people that come together. In certain cases, there are rules to be followed or policies to be followed, while in informal organization, not necessarily. So look at those aspects and compare formal organization to informal organization. Your study guide also look at the policy framework, or the national policy on managing HIV and AIDS in schools. So there is a strategic framework that you need to familiarize yourself with. And then we look at school culture. We know that every school portrays a certain culture, whether it is a negative culture or whether it is a positive culture. But you entering a certain school, even before you speak to anybody, the atmosphere, the way the people relate to each other speaks to you. And that is now the school culture. And this school culture is influenced by many aspects. It's influenced by how you manage the school. It is also influenced by the external factors in the environment. So you should not look at school culture in isolation. You must also look at it from the perspective of, in terms of a school, in which environment is the school situated? What are the main activities of the neighborhood? If the neighborhood is known for people who use drugs, you must expect that such influence will also penetrate the school. If it is a neighborhood where people are practicing Christian values, such influence will also penetrate the school. So that is now for management to analyze the type of environment in which you are situated and capitalize to the best of your ability those positive culture that you would like to embrace. Managing school computers. School computers are very important commodities of the school, and they need to be managed. There must be rules for how the learners are using the computers. and how computers are installed, and also in terms of the usage, who is to use computers so that it can benefit everyone. So managing school computers is a topic that is well covered and that you need to look at and be able to answer the question related to that. Good. And then management issues regarding schools. Here we'll look at the roles and responsibility of a head of department. It is very well demarcated for you in your study guide. Roles and responsibility of a head of department in terms of curriculum attainment, for example. Roles and responsibility of a head of department in terms of running extracurricular activities, and so on and so on. Please familiarize yourself with what are the roles and responsibilities of a head of department. And then corporal punishment in schools. We know that corporal punishment in school is abolished because it has negative effects. Will you be able to identify what are these negative effects of corporal punishment in school? Some people today that survived corporal punishment are living with scars that reminds them of corporal punishment during those days. Some of them have emotional scars that still denote the type of life that they are leading today. Those are some of the negative effects that I can allude to, but you need to zoom into more of these negative effects of corporal punishment. Issues regarding financial management. We know that a school cannot run without finance, and finance need to be managed. We need to plan, for example, how the school is going to source income. We need to be accountable. So a school has to have a system of accountability because we source these funds from parents, we source these funds from government, and we need to be accountable for what we have gained. So the possible sources can be fundraisings, which are also aspects that needs to be planned and planned very well. It can come from sponsorships. Corporate companies can come on board to donate sponsors and so on. And it can also come from cooperation, partnership with other schools. And then management of health and safety in a school is very, very important, more especially now where we are faced with COVID-19 pandemic. This topic come very relevant in terms of managing health and also safety in a school. Maintenance of hygiene at school and the danger of unhygienic facilities. There are definitely danger if we do not maintain our hygiene. So now, what are the benefits? First of all, living in a hygienic environment will enhance effective learning. Unhygienic conditions has a negative impact on learning. So learners perform better when they function in a hygienic and clean environment. In brackets, I try to bring in how we do it during the time of COVID. We know about deep cleaning. In other words, all facilities, all door handles, all our chairs and tables must be cleaned, not in the usual way, but more of a deep cleaning because it must be free from the virus that spread COVID-19. Sanitized environment. We are familiar now that sanitation has become part of any school. When the learners enter the school, when they are exchanging classes, when they are touching, and also continuous disinfection. So I'm trying to relate how managing health, how it relates to COVID-19 pandemic. Girls' enrollment, the benefit that they get, because we have to look at it with a different eye when we look at the girls. Girls' enrollment might be negatively affected if the condition or the hygiene is not on par. That's why we look at it and say increases enrollment of girls. So the lack of private sanitary facility for girls can discourage parents from sending girls to school and contributes to the drop out of girls, particularly at the puberty stage. So girls in a school setup the girls' facilities must be looked at from a different angle. Girls touching toilet spots frequently are more susceptible to COVID-19 infection. So therefore, in schools, we must ensure that disinfection and provision of sanitizers is available to make the toilet girl-friendly. Another benefit is that it reduces incidence of COVID-19 infection. So managing health can reduce incidences of COVID-19 infection. If school sanitation and hygiene facilities are absent or are badly maintained and used, school becomes a health hazard. So in terms of COVID-19 virus, it spreads rapidly in the absence of sanitation and hygiene. And that's why sanitation and hygiene during this time of COVID and beyond must be maintained effectively. All right, another benefit is that environmental cleanliness. Presence and the proper use of facilities will prevent pollution of the environment and limit health hazards for community at large. Environmental cleanliness, including facilities in use like desks, writing boards, etc., must be disinfected regularly to minimize COVID-19 virus to settle on surfaces. Still on management of health, another benefit is that implementing children's rights. So health become a right. So if you deny health to a child or a learner, then you are infringing on a fundamental right of a child. So learners and children have the right to be as healthy and happy as possible. So that's why during COVID-19, a state of emergency laws are amended to address the COVID-19 pandemic. We have experienced a lot of changes in terms of policies. We know now, for example, that learners are attending schools in cohorts to minimize a number of learners in a particular environment. So we have looked at laws that govern education, so in order to implement that right of a child to a healthy environment. The next slide talks about the MASLOW'S hierarchy of needs, and it is illustrated with a diagram, and the best way of reading this diagram is to read it from the bottom to the top. As you can see, the bottom is actually depicting a broad base, and gradually it is decreasing in terms of its broadness up to the top level. So, in other words, the first need that we look at is the physiological needs. You cannot address any need before you have addressed the physiological needs according to Maslow. So the physiological needs constitute food, clothing, and shelter. So you cannot satisfy other needs before you satisfy physiological needs. So in other words, a child cannot learn if hungry. A child cannot learn if unfed, if unclothed. And it is very difficult for a child to learn coming from an environment where there is no shelter. Or you are shortchanging the child if you put the child in a learning environment which is exposing such child to wintry conditions, rainy conditions, and so on. So, as a teacher, before you start embarking upon teaching and learning, look at the physiological needs of the child. Does the child have food? Is the child clothed? Or is the child in a better shelter? So, what can you do as a teacher? You can offer breakfast or lunch programs to ensure that the basic nutrition needs of the learners are being met. So break time is very important as a teacher to know that every child in your class is having something to eat, because that will ensure that what you are going to teach actually will be successful, because the basic need is addressed. Another one, according to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, is the safety needs. That is the second one from the bottom. This speaks to physical and mental needs. Teachers create a safe learning space, free from bullying on the playground and break time. So every child in your school must feel safe. It's a need that needs to be addressed. So the space in which the child learns, or the environment in which the child learns, must be free from bullying, free from children that are making it uncomfortable to others. Another need, the third one from the bottom, which is the social needs. Social refers to togetherness, the being together in groups is also a very important need. No man is an island. So it is also the same with the children that we are teaching. You must make sure that with whom are they hanging out? Is this child only on his own or her own all the time? And how do I interfere in order for this child also to belong to a certain group? So, therefore, as a teacher, you should encourage social affiliation. It's your duty to make sure that every child is socially integrated with others. Learners need to feel that they belong to a class and that they are accepted members of the group if they are to reach the next level. How do you enhance this? You can have games. Games break the boundary of individualism. Learners playing games together get to know each other, and they become comfortable with each other, and they become friends. Group work and teamwork exercise are also important way to apply this hierarchy, because interaction helps learners feel more involved. Another need, according to Maslow, the fourth one from the bottom, it's esteem needs. Your self-esteem, who you are, self-identity, the esteem needs. So a child, after the satisfaction of all other needs, needs also to know who he or she is. So you need to promote their self-esteem, their self-worth. So making the learners feel that they are making a contribution, that they are valued, and that they are valued as individuals. This a teacher can do by simply praising them. Well done. That recognition is very important. It can go a long way to help learners reach this level of esteem needs. The top level is self-actualization. After you have addressed all of these needs, individual wants to discover who they are. They need to discover things beyond who they are. Being all that you can be. So in other words, you propel yourself to the level. Let's take, for example, you as a teacher. You study, you become a teacher. After becoming a teacher, you are still not satisfied. You want to go further and educate yourself. You are still not satisfied. You want to become Doctor Who. You go further. So as you progress from the basic, you actually go to a level where you really want to become somebody in life. You want to discover who you are in life. That is now the highest levels in this hierarchy. This stage relates to the ability to apply what the learners have learned and to be able to give back and become involved with the betterment of the larger community. A way to apply this in education is to have learners who are very good in a subject, whether English essays or doing science experiments, help their classmates with their work. So in other words, the learner has satisfied own needs, but now is able to satisfy also the needs of others. That has brought us to the end of this presentation. I want to wish you good luck with your upcoming examination. Thank you very much.